SuperVision. Hi, I am Chris, aka Plastic, and welcome to the Pocket Legion. This week we are going to take a look at the bendy marvel that tried to take on the beer moth, which is the Game Boy. This week we are going to take a look at the Watara or Quickshot SuperVision. Released in the UK by Quickshot, released in a bunch of other countries by a bunch of other different companies, and if in the original country released Japan, that would be Watara. So there was a great wave of handhelds that kind of came out around the Game Boy, obviously trying to jump on the gravy train there, and a lot of them died along the way. There was the Games Master and the Mega Duck and Gamescom and a whole bunch of other stuff. But in 1992, SuperVision was an interesting alternative because they tried to do something a bit different. They tried to make it a little bit more user friendly. Let's have a look round the box. Well, straight up we have a nice picture of the, well, I suppose would have been fairly forward-facing design back in 1992, but it looks fugly as hell now. The Quickshot logo at the top, and these guys were more famous, at least in Europe, for making joysticks and control pads and kind of peripheral stuff anyway. So on the back, what seems fairly standard for the time, lots of bullet point stuff, showing you around the console. Lots of this funky clip art graphics everywhere, and look, they even packed in some extraordinarily cheap headphones and a game crystal ball. They didn't really use the crystal ball, did they? If only they had known. If only they'd known, they might not have bothered. So yeah, usual recycling stuff, and the game is not suitable for children under 3 years old, of course. 1992 Quickshot Limited. So let's take a look at this beast. There's some cardboard packaging, not working well with the sands of time. Here is our SuperVision. We have a couple of different service cards, guarantee cards, and some instructions. Oh, okay, instructions for Crystal Ball. Game there. It's basically an Arkanoid clone. There are those cheap headphones, and here's our cartridge. So yeah, kind of an interesting design choice there compared to the Game Boy carts. They expose the connections, which I'm sure probably led to millions of these getting absolutely destroyed. All right then, let's take a look at this console. So the biggest standout thing is way before the days of the DS, this guy had a folding bend in it. Now, I don't know, like personally when I'm sitting gaming, I kind of hold consoles flat to my face like this. So I found the bend really useless. Like there's no really good reason to do it. It doesn't really bend enough that you can kind of get a comfortable position with it. But I don't know, it's something, I suppose if you're going to play it on the table like this, then maybe that's a good thing, but I don't know. Let's have a little look around the console. So, D-pad, probably one of the worst out there, especially when you consider stuff like the Games Master and, well, at least the Mega Duck were doing something a little bit closer to the Game Boy. You got a select and start and pause button, an A and B button. That logo, an incredible choice of teal as the accent colour on this guy. Of course, the Quickshot logo. High quality stereo sound. A total lie unless using good quality headphones because it has a mono speaker. This guy. You've stuff on the back. You've got the slot, power switch, volume. Oh, a communication port here. Now that's kind of cool because you could like hook these guys up together and play multiplayer, which was something that I don't think happened for another year or two with the Game Boy, so that was kind of cool. DC in and contrast. Oh, and actually a lot apart from a phones jack on the bottom. Now, although this guy had a marginally better screen in my opinion, than the Nintendo. I think it ran a little bit slower, but it actually had slightly more pixels. It was 160 by 160 square pixels, 4 shades of grey, so that's comparable. But it seemed to have less ghosting. We'll take a look at that in a minute. But the actual SuperVision seemed to die, as many of these other consoles did at the time, because they couldn't get any third-party support. So you ended up with games that you will not recognise, like Eagle Plan, Hero Hawk, Hero Kid, Carby Island, and of course Alien. Now, I mean, that actually just looks like it's ripping off R-Type right there. If that isn't a R-Type clone, I don't know what is. All right then, so let's take a look at some of these little beauties. Now, most of them are Bomberman clones, which seems to be a thing for this console, but this one has genuine 2D side-on shooting graphics. So, inside the extremely cheap box, here we have our Alien cartridge, again with that R-Type clone box art. Let's pop that in. There's a pretty solid clunk there, it's nice. Let's activate our special feature and turn it on. So of course a rip-off right there of the Game Boy. Let's use our contrast to dial that into the lens a little bit. Now, I don't know if you can see that through the lens, but like I was saying, we do have a slower frame rate, a bigger screen, but a lot less of that ghosting that seemed to be fairly present. Now, this game is also cheap. I mean, the animation is very poor quality. The sound is terrible. And really, if you got one of these instead of a Game Boy, you should be cursing your parents right now. There's a good reason why these died off. For another $15, you could have had a Nintendo and a copy of Mario. So think about that. Think about that, parents. All right, let's take a look at one of these other games. Eagle Plan. Sounds like a plan. Let's do that. Uh-oh. Looks like the Sands of Time maybe took that one from us. How about Hero Kid? There we go. Uh-oh. Well, here's our Mario clone. Huh. Except you don't die. You just trip over if you hit stuff on the ground. Oh no, we're dead. We're dead. Okay. Cool. SuperVision, it is time for you to be judged. SuperVision, you are cheap, you are fat, and you are bendy. You're going to get a rating of a hippo in yoga pants. Thanks for watching. This week's game is ballistic. Stick it to the man with guns and knives. Thanks for sharing, subscribing, and please do tell a friend. And until next week, keep your pockets back.